Well, hello. Welcome back to Come Follow 33, your faith journey podcast. I'm Ted Thomas.
And I am Peter Grogan. I had to think of who I was.
Yeah. And we brought back Luke because Peter had to pay him so much from the last episodes.
Yeah. I paid him too much, and I said, "Well, you got a little more time that you're going to have to give us." So
Yeah.
And you are?
I'm Luke Hawkshaw.
yeah,
Luke.
okay.
Well, welcome back, Luke. It's been a long time.
Very long, very long.
You didn't even get dessert yet.
I was promised dessert.
We also asked him to wear the same shirt and hat.
Well, he does that at work. You know,
Yeah,
this is his work
This is my work attire.
Parenting is God's favorite.
uniform.
Anyway, welcome back. We appreciate it. There was just so much more to talk about, right? There was way too much content for the one episode. We kind of knew that going into it. So the plan was to have two episodes, but I think we were just rolling in that last episode. And finally we had to say, oh, you know what? Is this still Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are. And just before we started recording, I think we were already starting the episode. So we said, hey, you know what? Let's get going.
Let's get going. We're going to talk a little bit about parenting, what that looks like in our faith journey. And I think Luke has, he's got younger kids. We've got older kids. So we'll share some of that. But what's it look like to walk out our faith and parenting? What is maybe some of the things our kids are teaching us? And as we walk this out, maybe we're seeing things differently. Luke was sharing a little bit about his son. And what's some things that kind of stick out to you maybe as you're walking out your faith, maybe differently now as a father who's following Jesus versus before? And what are some of the things that stand out to you?
It's a good question. I mean, for me, I think it's funny that faith has kind of led me this way, but I guess just being a good role model and trying my best to obviously be a good role model and be, a good husband, a good father, but also a faithful one and one who is, following God and, praying with my son, praying before meals, things like that, and showing him the way.
Yes. Yeah. And you mentioned in the last episode, if people didn't hear about it, that, your son had something to do with this drawing closer, wanting to learn more, that he had said something to you. What did he say to you?
So, he'd asked me, what happens to us when we die? What happens after this? Because I love you and mommy so much that, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of there being nothing happening. And it's, it hit me, and I was, I just instantly went into, there's a heaven, and to join us much longer after. And we'll be waiting for you, and we'll have fun up in heaven, and it'll be a party. And
it gave them the answer that you like, it was something maybe you weren't fully believing, but you were like, I don't want to scare them. I want to provide them something that they could go to sleep with. Right.
Exactly.
It was good.
Exactly.
And then just before we started the show, you told us something else that he'd asked you, which I find this fascinating.
Yeah. He asked me lots of questions. And one of the questions he had asked recently was, Dad, he said, do you pray for the devil?
Right.
And I said, why would you ask that? Why would anyone do that? I was thinking in my head, but then I started really thinking about it. And he said, well, the devil was one of God's angels, as he's learning in his children's Bible. And he was, banned from heaven. If we're supposed to be forgiven and all of these things, why can't the devil be forgiven? And can he be saved? And it really made me think.
Yeah,
and
it's a tough question to answer.
It was really tough.
Especially as kind of a Christian in your infancy.
Exactly.
Right?
And so I told him yes and no. I said, I think it's okay to pray for God to be with him and for good things to happen to him, in quotes. And, but not to pray that he, continues doing what he's doing. And
yeah, I like where you're going with, like, how do we at the right time give our children information, right, that's not damaging, or, I like where your heart is in it, right? I think I had similar things when I first came to faith with an opportunity to teach 5th and 6th grade Sunday school. I was like, okay, because I was doing some teaching. And same thing, questions would come and I'd be like, I don't know the answer to that. I would just say, you know what, I'm going to have to come back next week.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll talk more about this on another episode, but that childlike faith, right, that we're trying to encourage, we're trying to, looking up to us, right? They're looking they're looking for answers for everything.
Oh yeah.
But they're going to continue to ask these hard questions that, wow, it makes us grow in our faith. I know just like that question was something people are going to ask us, right? And it's okay to say, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Even today, I mean, I don't know it all, right? I don't know. I don't know, but let me look into that and get back to you and actually do it, right? Like to be okay as a parent to say, I don't know the answer to that question, but that's a really good question. And I'm going to go and search it out. Maybe that means you got to go and open your Bible. You got to talk to a friend. You got to, and find ways that you can come back, right? Because that's what they're looking for.
Right.
You want that consistency with them to say, I don't know it all.
Yeah.
But
it's also, like you said, it's answering to my 8-year-old too. Like another question that he asked that I didn't know necessarily the answer to was he asked, well, who made God? Who came before God?
Right. Another great
And
question.
then so I'm sitting there, well, I'd imagine that, God created time and space and all of it. And it's like, do I explain, we're going down this whole rabbit hole right now? Do I?
Yeah. Because you may not have the answer to.
Right. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't really. I mean, I kind of had an idea, but I didn't read it correctly.
Because he's thinking if God created the heaven and earth, and who created God?
Right. Well, and I'm explaining to him, in order for the earth to be here, someone created it. Well, then he's like, well, who created this someone?
Right.
Yeah.
And so
I'm trying not to answer these questions on purpose for our episode. Right. I think it's good for these questions to come out.
Of course.
And how we engage with them.
Yeah.
Because I think people are asking those same questions.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
And I want this podcast to be a way for people to hear that we have those same questions, right? Those are coming to us. They'll come to you if you're listening, right? And it's your job, right? Or your responsibility as a parent to go and, search the scriptures, find other people. Don't have to own that you don't know it all. I think that's the other thing. There's something with parenting where you think like, man, I don't want to blow it. Right. It's like blowing it is saying something and having to come back later and go, well, I told you something, but that's not actually it. Right. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that.
No, but
remember you said that. Sometimes pausing and saying, wow, that's a great question, buddy. I don't know the answer to that. And what to do to help out. Right.
That's awesome. That's really cool. How has your journey, how has it been with Madden?
With Madden, it's completely different because Madden, although he says a few words, he doesn't speak or ask questions like that. But I've seen God in Madden. Really see just the beauty of everything that he creates. Sorry.
You said you see God through Madden. So what is it that you've seen?
He is just a ball of love, and he's just happy all the time. And things that I wake up and worry about every day, he's oblivious to it all. It's funny because Wes is asking me all these really tough questions, and then I look outside and Madden's running around the backyard naked and I'm peeing in the backyard, and I just look at him and I laugh, and it's almost like, God has a sense of humor in a way too. And he's really just blessed me. And what I mean by saying that I see God in him is I see the pureness of God. And it's made me realize, like, really, I mean, people say this all the time, but the beauty is inside. And, it's with small moments with Madden. He'll look at me and, he doesn't have to tell me that he loves me. I just know he does.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about, of like that he is not having to experience the brokenness of this world in the way that we do.
Right.
Right. Is in some ways a blessing, even though I don't want to diminish how hard that is for you and your wife and everybody else, right? Like how hard that is for you to have to experience that, but then to see like he's not having to experience that.
Right.
And that's something, and to see the pureness and the holiness of someone that doesn't have to, I mean, they're still broken. He still does stuff, right? Right. But to be able to experience that, and only parents that have that situation, have to go through that really difficult thing. And I don't want to show how difficult and hard that is.
No, and you're right. He's blessed in a lot of ways because of that. He doesn't have to deal with all of the things that we have to deal with. But I think also he's made me, like I said, he's made me turn to God, and because I had nobody else to talk to. about it, that would understand. And I pray about him and for him every day. It's wonderful. He's really strengthened my relationship with God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about when you're saying that, like this dependence on God is like a whole nother level for you
100%. Oh, yeah.
because of this child.
He's my therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, I mean, because I'm sure there's times when you feel alone, not
Mhm.
necessarily alone because you have Shelby, but you probably feel like you're really alone in this. And then
Right.
having God in it,
Mhm.
you're not alone in it.
Absolutely.
And you know that there's nothing that God can't handle, obviously. So
Well, and also
having his help.
faith comes in to play a lot too,
Yeah.
because I have to have faith that he'll be, he'll get better, and that he'll be able to do, maybe do things when he gets older. Maybe he can have a job. Maybe he can have a wife. Maybe he can do all of these things.
Yes.
And or God forbid something happens to Shelby and I, what happens?
Yeah.
So yeah.
How has this impacted you and Shelby's relationship? I know that's
Yeah.
a hard question, but
No, it's a good question, and it's something that I think Shelby and I's relationship has strengthened so much because of it. It's taken a toll on it for sure, and I'm sure it does with every family that deals with it. It's
Mhm.
taken its toll on Wesley. He's watching his friends, play with their siblings, and their siblings are going to, their hockey games, and his isn't, because Madden would be running around and naked
Naked on the
on the
ice.
ice.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's been really difficult. And Shelby and I, we, when we do have fights or whatever you want to call it, it's about Madden, I would say 99% of the time. And it's really difficult. And but we get through it. And her and I's relationship is phenomenal. It is
Yeah.
amazing. We're best friends. We talk about everything. And I think it's been hard, but it's
Yeah.
really, it's been good too, because like I said, it's strengthened us so much. We know a lot. I know now, having been but 2.5 years of him being diagnosed, that we've met people that are dealing with this. And now, so we do have, Shelby more, because she's kind of the one that is, handling him, and
Stepping it
she's
on.
caregiver, yeah.
she's had to quit her job, and she's, his caretaker. And so
Right.
it's really, affected her, but she has people that she talks to, and we're doing everything we can, putting him in therapy and
Right.
all of these things. And it takes a toll, because like there's so many things that we want to do that are normal, that we can't, or we'll try to do, and it's very difficult.
Right.
Like just going out to eat. It's actually funny, because I remember there's an episode where you were talking about a dad like had given, and I've had two kids at a restaurant, and you had said you guys are talking about like social media and
Yeah.
how it's affecting people. And Shelby and I are very against, I don't have socials, like I mentioned to you.
Right.
We're against, we're not iPad parents or anything like that. The only way we can get our son to go to dinner with us is if we give him our phone and we
Yeah.
put on Miss Rachel or something like that he enjoys to watch. And so when I saw, I know, but when I saw that, I thought, it's funny, because before I would be one of those parents like, that guy is not paying attention to his kids. And now my first thought is, well, maybe his kids are on the spectrum, and it's the
Yeah.
only way he can have a meal with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
And thank you for sharing that. Because
Yeah.
it's like that somebody's going to hear that. I'm hearing
Right.
it and I'm going, wow, look how judgmental I was.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Potentially.
Well, yeah,
Versus seeing it as like that could be
mhm,
the only time he gets to be with his
Yeah.
kids.
definitely.
Yeah,
And
because
it's,
there have been times when we've been out where we've had that same thought. It's like, is nobody going to pay attention to this kid? Is nobody going to,
you never know
think
what
that.
someone's going through.
As a parent, I'm sure there's probably 90% of the time where you're just so hyper aware and you don't want anybody to be bothered by your child.
Mhm.
But there's got to be some times where you're just like, okay, he's on the iPad.
Right.
We can do our thing.
Right.
And then you're kind of oblivious to if anybody's bothered by that situation.
Oh,
And
I'm
that's,
sure
then
that.
it's a very rare moment of time for you, but for that person on the outside that doesn't know the situation, it can easily be misconstrued as, oh, this guy's not paying, or
Right.
these parents are not paying attention to their kids. But yeah, I mean, you have to kind of look at the whole situation and
You never know
understand. Yeah.
what someone's going through, and this has made me really hyper aware of that, because Madden is a vocal stimmer, So he screams and yells a lot. And so like we'll go to the grocery store and he'll be yelling and people will stare at us. And luckily I've never had anyone say anything to me
Yeah.
because I don't know how I'd react in the moment. Because some moments I'm frustrated and I'm stressed out, and then other moments I'm more calm and more
Right.
easily.
They're probably scared of all your tattoos.
That's
so they're not
that too
yeah.
probably. That could be it. But before I was the type of person that would probably be staring at this mother dealing with
Yeah.
that, like, shut your kid up,
Yeah.
or keep it down, or what are you doing? Bad parenting.
Yeah. And
Never know.
it's one of those situations where you kind of don't know unless you've experienced it,
Right.
Sadly.
Yeah.
I mean, like I still on a daily basis, because I work with Craig and I'll ask about his weekend. He'll talk about what, Aubrey did this, she had a dance thing. And then, it's like, well, Haley, wasn't feeling well. And, and I mean, Haley, same situation,
Mhm.
I mean, she's like a vocal stemmer, but I mean, she gets very loud sometimes too. I mean, and it's just,
Right.
you learn to deal with that.
I
you
need to
know?
reach out to him more and
Well,
talk to him more.
yes. But the point I was making is that, it's you are dealing with that like nonstop. I think that after my conversation, I'll think to myself, this never stops. And for you,
Mm.
it never stops. It's 24/7.
It's something, even that he wakes up in the middle of the night sometimes at 2 a.m. and he's just laughing in his room or screaming so it is literally 24/7 that we're dealing with it.
Yeah. And then I imagine that once the situation calms down, you're wide awake and you probably have a conversation with God at that moment.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, how is that? I mean, that's probably like a mix of a great moment and the not so great moment.
I think, a lot of times, and I think a lot of people do this where I know my wife does, where it's like, why is this happening
Right.
to me? Why is this happening to him? Why us?
Yeah.
And so there's been times where I've asked that, why did you choose me for this? But then I also feel grateful because on the same hand, it's like, well, I wouldn't want anyone else to deal with Madden because I love Madden, take good care of him, and I'll be flexible and all of these things.
You're the perfect parent,
Right.
right? Realizing that is hard.
No, it is.
Well, I'm speaking because I don't have any. My kids aren't on the spectrum, but just seeing how God is and continuing equipping you, right, or this gift that He's given you, but also is a very hard thing to walk through. Right? And seeing how you're walking that out with your faith is inspiring, right? To say, you know what, when these hard times come, when I'm wide awake, I'm calling on God because He's the only one that's going to hear me. He's the only one that's going to help me through this.
Right.
And that's a lot of people may not ever have that depth of dependence on God.
Yeah.
It's usually some major adversity. Somebody goes through sickness or somebody dies, right? And it's like a short period, but not over a lifetime, right? And that depth is something that is inspiring and that people can say, look, but God, there's no way I could do this, right? There's this dependence on Him that has to be so much greater than what we could muster.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's
Absolutely.
the situation, as unfortunate as it might seem at sometimes, keeps that relationship with God just like right there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're there, right? Because I need you.
You're still there, right?
Yeah.
We have that. We have some friends of ours that have adopted some kids with special needs. And there's something about that couple that has so much joy in the midst of this very big challenge. Like it's almost infectious.
Oh, yeah.
Like I want to be around them. I'm like, there's no way that they can do this by themselves. And they are solely dependent upon the Lord to help them in these really difficult situation is inspiring. Like, I don't know how you do it. How can I help you?
Right.
And there's not a lot of help that people can do that aren't part of either in that community where they know how to handle kids like that. So that's the other part too. It's like, hey, how do you get a community of people who can help walk with you in that? Right. Because it's hard because most people don't have that.
There's churches and our church that we go to, Crossroads Community Church, has a group that if we bring Matt into church, they have, somebody that is, trained, I
You
mean,
to do
to,
one
to,
to one.
to
Yeah.
handle
Yeah.
to handle his situation. And it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a message to people, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, find a church that has that ability. Like, it'd be great, to find a church that's close to you, but it might
Right.
be better for you to find something that might offer the services that you have. Just like at school, there's services out there, but
Right.
you want to find a community of believers that are, having this dependence upon God that encourages one another, right?
Yeah.
And some people might be like, I don't think I could do it. With our church, same thing. You know, there's people in there that give that parent, 1 hour of, hey, they can go in and worship the Lord. 1 hour on a Sunday
Right.
makes this big difference to them to be able to, like, I know they're in a safe place.
Oh,
And I
absolutely.
know there's people that's trained.
Yeah.
And if they need me, they'll come get me.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
that's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah. And you know what I mean?
You
I
get,
think
you
that's-
get a body of people around you. Right.
Yeah.
Don't do it alone.
And if you have, like, if you're out there and you actually are certified to do something like that, it's a great way to participate at church. And Valerie does that. She has a one-on-one that she'll work with, so that the parents,
So grateful.
so that the
Like-
parents can go,
Like her.
yeah. I mean,
You have no idea how much
yeah.
you're-
No, she's fantastic. And
Yeah.
I mean, she's got the patience, because some people don't have the patience, and I don't, I couldn't do it, but I admire anyone that can
I
do
think
that.
that's the thing that's scary is, my wife and I, there's times we don't have the patience.
Right.
So I'm thinking, and I know my wife is thinking, how are we going to trust somebody
Right.
else who
Yeah.
doesn't love Madden like we to watch him
Yeah.
and care for him like we care for him?
The great thing though is that there are so many people that get involved and that no, they're not going to have that relationship with your child like you do, but they have the knowledge and they have the patience and they understand the situation. And kids can sense it.
Right. Well, in a lot of
They
cases,
know.
they're better
Better
at
for
it.
somebody else.
Yeah.
They're better at it
Yeah.
than we are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I
because
think-
they're not as emotionally tied. And, I mean, sometimes, she might have come across as a little, harsh or rough or stern, but it's like, this is what's necessary.
Right.
And that's
what they
when
need.
you get kind of the best reactions is when you kind of stern it and you stick to the rules. And it's like, because kids need, I mean, no matter, where they are, if they're on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, they need rules and they thrive on rules. So,
Right.
so it's
Structure is
important.
important.
It's
Yeah.
important for them to have that.
I was going to say for those parents out there too is, you're not just going to go and drop your kid off. You're going to probably stay in the room a couple of weeks, 3 weeks. Like
Yeah.
you have to
Right.
invest. Just like we talk about, hey, you're trying to find a new church community. Like you could go 1 week, but you really got to go a few times in order to see, is this God's home?
Yeah.
Is this a home? Is this a family for me? Right.
Right.
And it takes courage.
Yeah.
It takes courage for parents to say, hey, I know what happens inside my four walls. I'm now giving this child to you to take care of. They're going to be
Right.
safe, or they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it takes courage sometimes to do that and take that step of faith by, I want to learn more about God. We're on this journey and there's other people that, want to help you. Right. And you got to find a church that can do that and then give them a chance too. Right. Like
Yeah,
give people a
absolutely.
chance. Like we talked about, some people don't even want to drop their babies off. They bring their kids into church. So it's not just kids on the spectrum.
Right.
It's like parents have to okay, hey,
Yeah.
there's some people that are caring for your kids so that you can
Right.
worship, you can focus,
Right. Right.
and there's opportunities for parents on that side too. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, these people, that's what they're volunteering. Remember,
Right.
that's most of the time they're not paid.
No.
They're
No.
volunteering because that's what
Yeah.
we talked about this a talent or a gift that they have. And they're, at a good church, they went through background, they went through training, they've been shadowed, all these things have happened to say, yeah, they're going to do everything in their power to let you enjoy service because that's a blessing that they want to give of their time. Right. So I want to encourage parents that are out there, that to consider that, because sometimes it'd be like, oh, I can't go to church. I can't fellowship with the body
Right.
because of this situation. And I get it.
Right.
You could be in different places where that's not available to you, but if it is, Southern California, it is, right?
You know,
Absolutely.
Where we are, there's churches that a lot of them have that
Yeah,
available to them.
That's great.
So we're
Okay,
rounding
that's
third.
fine.
How are we doing? on time?
Random. I want to ask one more question. If
Yeah,
I could.
you got time for one more.
Okay. So my question is, how is Wes with Madden? Like, I mean, how is he? I mean, he's a very inquisitive child,
Right.
obviously. So, I mean, how is he in that whole situation?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's tough on him at
Yeah.
times, but man, I see him growing into such a amazing young man because of it. And he's
Yeah.
so much more emotionally connected
Yeah.
than other kids his age. We tried to go to Legoland
Okay.
for Easter break, and it was, of course, a nightmare. And because Madden was, making things difficult, and we essentially didn't ride a single ride.
Okay.
And we were there for a couple hours and it was not fun. Like I said, total nightmare. Wes was cool about it. And he was just like, of course he wanted to go on rides,
Right.
he wanted to do
He's
things, but
8
he
years old.
wasn't throwing a fit or he wasn't, complaining or anything like that. I think he's really understanding and he loves his brother so much. And he wants him to be a part of it too. So like I think he was happier that we didn't go without him and just bring him,
Right.
and happy that we tried to go with Madden. It didn't work out. So we ended up, back at the Airbnb, and we actually had a really good time just hanging out at the Airbnb.
That's good.
Like, we should have just done this.
Saved a little money.
Right, exactly. No, we tried, and Legoland had they gave us front of the line passes for Madden. They actually refunded our tickets because we
Oh,
were
wow.
playing the situation, so they were really good about it. But yeah, it's important to try those things too. Like
course.
there's things that we try and it doesn't work out like that, but then there's things we try and we're like, oh, this
Yeah. That's the only way you can find out. Yeah.
exactly
And look at the witness that Wes is being.
right.
Like I think one of the things that sometimes happens is there's a lot of tension on the one that has the special needs and the other child.
Right.
Like how are he's being able to love unconditionally, right?
Right.
Like he's exemplifying God's love to his brother.
Right.
And to be able to see that be put on display at a young age that God's got a special plan for him. It's like to
Yeah.
have to
No, I've
endure
witnessed
what
that.
he's enduring
Yeah.
is going to he's going to be so far ahead of other kids because he's learning how to love. He's learning how to
Right.
care for. He's learning how to give 100%,
Mm-hmm.
to something with nothing in return.
Right.
Isn't that incredible?
And
No,
asking
absolutely.
some incredible questions too.
Right.
No, I'm serious because
Yeah.
the questions he's asking are so deep and
Right.
so, so beyond his years.
We're going to have him on the show.
You
It'll
should.
be the
One
question
day.
and answer.
He would love to be on the show.
Yeah.
He's the type of person that he would love.
He gives 100%.
Yeah.
He gets really, really into what he's doing. It's just see him play hockey. If he doesn't win, man, he's upset.
He's competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
That's
definitely
good.
very
Sounds like you are kind of living out your hockey through Wes a little bit.
Oh, definitely.
He's going to have to be an
We
NHL
went
player.
to watch him, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's awesome. It's awesome to see. And some of these little kids, oh man, there's some kids on his team that are outrageous.
Right.
They're so good.
I think that's a part of the reason. I mean, obviously, I love hockey. We
Yeah.
talked about it. My mom's family is from Detroit.
Yeah.
My dad's from Canada. And, hockey's in our blood. So naturally, Wes, loves hockey and
Yeah.
probably due to our influence. But
course.
he's grown to really love the game. And I think it's helped us have a good relationship with Wes, me and my wife, because we give him his own attention in that sense. It's also brought to light a few things, like I mentioned before, where his friends will have their whole family there.
Right.
It's either just me or mom,
Right.
90% of the time, unless we can get my grandparents Madden for us. But
Mhm.
we actually did bring
Or an
Madden-
uncle.
or an uncle. We did.
I was at the game.
We did, yeah, exactly. We did bring Matt into one of his games actually recently, and I think we had like 10 or 12 family members there. So
Okay.
he was going crazy and kind of screaming and yelling, but we kind of had like circled around him in the bleachers, so he couldn't really go anywhere, and he enjoyed it. He says hockey and he knows Wes, and so it was cool.
That's
a
cool.
experience. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, what an opportunity. You're building this future leader.
Mhm.
He's already a team player with hockey.
Right.
He's taking care of the least of these, that says whatever you do for the least of these, you do for me.
Mhm.
Right. So he's already learning these principles. He's asking about God. I can't wait to meet him. I'm really excited about meeting this young
Yeah,
man and
it's-
hearing, I'm excited to hear from him and maybe answer some of those questions.
Next time he asks a question, I'll say, "Well, You can ask Ted when.
There you go. When we meet him, I'd love that. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that opportunity to, share some hard things, some good things, about what it's to be a parent with two boys, one on the spectrum and, an athlete and how you're walking that out with your faith with the Lord and trusting him. And I really love hearing about how in those difficult times, your heart is towards reaching out to God because he's the only one that's there 24/7, 365
100%.
and listening. So I'm encouraged by that. And I want to thank you for sharing that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you for
And
letting me
you
share.
you look at the past and your history, and you could easily just kind of turn your back on it all.
hmm
And it's great that you're not doing that.
My wife helped me out a lot with that.
That's
And
great.
she, like I mentioned to you before, she's Catholic.
Mhm.
So some of her views are different, but she really,
But most of them are the same.
well, most of them are the same.
Yeah.
And she really, helped me find God, honestly, whether she was doing it on purpose or not.
She's pointing you.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Leading me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely.
Our wives definitely another God had ordained something before the foundation of the earth to have you together, to be able to her point you to him. And now you guys both walking this out in this challenging situation and trusting God through it is it's good to take a step back and say, okay, God had this perfect plan. It's not always our plan, but he's working out for his glory. And it's good to hear that. So I want to thank you again for joining us on this episode.
Thanks for having me.
This is episode 14. It's incredible. We've made it this far. We're almost doubled up on what we said.
That's right. We said we'd do 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're listening or you're watching again, we want to encourage you to just like and subscribe. We'd like to share. It's easy to share on Spotify. So we're going to pump Spotify a little bit. You might be in the car and these all going to be around 30 minutes, close to 33, if at all possible.
Right.
Come join us next week. We've got some fun new topics. We'll have some new guests in a few weeks. I want to get back from Europe. I won't mention that, but I guess I
It's a
will.
jet setter. I'm just going to be sitting in here by myself trying to figure out what to do.
We're thinking about maybe doing on location.
Yeah.
So that might be incredible.
Maybe from a cruise ship. I think that'd be fun.
There you go.
All of us will get Wes on there.
Zoom call. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time. God bless you guys. Thanks for joining us.
God bless.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.